Josie Malone. Josie says, I live at Horse Country Farm, a family-owned riding stable in the Cascade foothills. I work hard during the day and write in the evenings. When I can't write, due to the overwhelming needs and pressures of the real world, words and stories fill my mind. Even when I muck the barn, I think about books in progress and map out the writing in my mind. Go, Josie.
Thank you. Trail Through Time is book 5 in my Liberty Valley series. And what I should say about Liberty Valley is that from the time it was settled in the 1860s to the present, life isn't exactly normal. Although the people who live there deny that magic takes place. Despite time traveling, love-bringing spells, witches, wizards, and shape-shifting neighbors. You can enjoy a visit or a lifetime in the valley. It's always an adventure, but you need to watch out for the time portals, or you'll be in the Old West before you know it. In Trail Through Time, Kyle Morgan has discovered that a woman that he's only seen in pictures is in mortal danger from a serial killer. So he has to convince her that he's traveled more than 100 years to protect her. And of course, she doesn't believe him. And we're going to start with chapter 1. Let's see. Civilian and police cars filled the parking lot around the funeral home, although the memorial service wouldn't start for almost 2 hours. Nina Armstrong parked her 20-year-old Ford Ranger in the space reserved for her and switched off the engine. She dreaded facing everyone, but what choice did she have? My best friend died trying to bring the man who raped and battered me to justice. Quit whining and whinging and go for it. She would do the same for me. Taking a moment, Nina reassured Puka, her half-grown tricolor collie mix, who sat in the passenger seat, that she would be back as soon as she could manage it. She knew she was adhering to an old-fashioned code of conduct that most service dog trainers would say was unnecessary, but somehow she couldn't take a puppy into a memorial service. There would be other times and places to socialize Puka. Nina clambered out of the truck and lingered for a moment, locking the driver's door. At least she was off the crutches. She hadn't been able to make herself wear anything but black jeans, a subdued top under her black Western-style jacket. Regardless of the occasion, she doubted she'd ever wear a dress again. Last month, she'd had hysterics when her brother-in-law tugged gently on her braid at a horse show, causing onlookers to stare at her. Her mother and stepfather suggested she continue to avoid crowds if she couldn't control her emotional meltdowns. The following afternoon, she visited Ginger Taylor and demanded the former hairdresser shave her head. Ginger refused, saying a cap-style cut was enough, and promised to deliver the chocolate brown waist-length braid to the local Locks of Love wig-making drive. It was time to quit stalling, Nina told herself sternly. Sooner or later, someone would see her standing by the truck in the parking lot and try to escort her inside. Taking a deep breath, she headed into the lobby and looked around. A photograph of Beth Chambers in her formal cop blues stood on an easel near a door. Nina winced, remembering the day she'd taken the picture. Afterward, the two of them had gone to lunch at Beth's favorite restaurant, Billy Bob's, where they enjoyed giant slabs of cheesecake with their coffee, not bothering to feel guilty because they'd split one of the huge specialty burgers and a mountain of hand-cut crispy French fries first. In the room, several other easels held large pictures of Beth. Many showed her in different army uniforms. In one corner was a candid shot of her in jeans and a western shirt, holding her horse's reins, while Luke, her retired canine partner, stood by the pair. The light gray Arabian nuzzled her arm, and Nina recalled her friend always had horse cookies in a coat pocket, reserved especially for Tigger. Blinking back the tears, Nina went past the cluster of police officers to the front of the room. Beth's foster father, Will Dawson, stood there with one of his many relatives, a petite brunette that Nina recognized as Audra Dawson, Beth's favorite cousin. Despite wearing a formal black suit, he looked like a silver-haired singing cowboy with one of his favorite Stetsons. Will smiled and reached out to hug Nina when she joined him. "Thanks for coming. I'm glad you made it." Nina slipped out of the sideways embrace, hoping she didn't offend the older man. But she couldn't bear to be touched, even 5 months after the attack. Beth would hate all this fuss. Yep, she sure would. She always threw a fit about the falderall when we got together every time before she deployed. Will smiled all the way up to warm brown eyes, but this way her friends can say goodbye and wish her well. "And the family can too," Audra said, turning with a friendly nod. "I'm Audra Dawson Watkins now. Don't worry about missing my wedding. Joe and I eloped, and the relatives don't know what to make of that." Nina nodded, glancing around and seeing several more members of the Dawson clan. "I saw Joe at the vet clinic when I took in my puppy for his shots last time. He was nice. He even gave Puka the teddy bear that he'd chewed up." "That's my husband," Audra agreed happily. "Animals first, and people barely second. He'll be back as soon as he straightens out the chaplain. Joe will find a tactful way to explain that nobody will be happy if he opts for one of those surface speeches that are so popular, and make it obvious that he really didn't know Beth, even if she was sent to him for counseling for her PTSD. The conversation eased some of Nina's nervousness, but she still had to ask, "Have you heard anything more from the district attorney? Does he have anything new to say about Gary Smith?" "Oh, the fellow still claims Beth is alive and well in 1888, Will said. "Detective Watkins assures us that Smith's trying for an insanity plea, but he won't get it. He had her coat and everything she kept in the pockets for trophies. Plus, there was more evidence when they found his saddlebags and that dead horse in the National Forest." "There's no way Beth would give up her things," Nina said. "She got her man. Smith will spend the rest of his life behind bars once he goes to trial." Will drew an antique gold watch out of his pocket, rubbing the case with a calloused thumb. "You're right. She did get her man, and all of the Dawsons can live with that. Time to stop blaming yourself for what she did, sweetness." "But it's my fault she tracked him into the National Forest and got herself killed," Nina said. "I'd never want her hurt." "Same goes for you," Audra said. "She'd hate it if she thought you blamed yourself. She always took care of everyone, even before she became a cop. It was her job, and she stepped up. Again, no blame attaches to you." Nina felt some of her tension ease. She prepared to be criticized and judged, not hear this much understanding on so many levels. She glanced across the room and saw Joe Watkins coming toward them. He'd never been a big guy, barely 6 foot. He was still lean and wiry, accompanied by a younger man in a dark suit, carrying a black cowboy hat. Was that the minister? It couldn't be, not with that hat. Audra turned her smile on them. "Nina, you remember my husband, don't you? And this is a friend of ours and Beth's, Kyle Morgan." Nina tensed for a moment, concerned he might try to shake her hand. Instead, he stood still and then slowly smiled until it touched his dark brown eyes. While she didn't smile back at him, she relaxed again. He wasn't a giant of a man, shorter than both Joe and Will, but 3 inches taller than she was at 5'4". Faint amusement trickled through her. No wonder he needed a hat to make himself bigger. Sun-streaked blonde hair reached his broad shoulders, and she realized it was longer than hers. She noticed the faded line of a jagged scar that sliced his right cheek and wondered what happened. Was it some kind of war injury? Had he and Beth served together in Afghanistan? "Where did you meet Beth?" Nina asked. "I don't remember her mentioning you." "In the woods on one of her hunting trips." Nina met his gaze, wary now. Beth didn't hunt. "He means a camping trip," Audra said. "You're her best friend. You know, she used to head for the hills whenever she could around the holidays because she hated fireworks after all those army tours in the Middle East. They triggered her PTSD." "Then why didn't you say that?" Kyle shrugged. "Wasn't sure what you folks called it. And she was downright unsociable when I stumbled into her camp looking for my brother. Her dog attacked me, knocked me down, and held me in the dirt. Not really. A burst of rare laughter bubbled up inside Nina. What did your brother do? Laughed. He never was a sensitive sort. Probably why he and Bethany get along so well. You mean got along? Tears stung and she blinked hard. Now she had another reason to hate herself. She deprived her best friend of a man who undoubtedly would have been her soulmate and given her the happy ever after she dreamed of and rarely mentioned. Nina glanced around the room. Is he here? No, Brad isn't much for ceremony.